Hi Jessica, hi Queen, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I've been a big fan for years and I got to screen the film a few weeks ago, so it's an honor to get to talk to you and thank you so much again.
Oh, I'm so happy to talk to you.
I guess just to start things up, my first question is evangelists don't often have like the reputation for being like the most friendly towards the LGBTQ community. And Tammy was like a really big pioneer in that aspect. Can you talk about showcasing that side to Tammy, especially since like especially for queer people of like younger generations, they may not know that about her?
Yeah, so in the time, during the AIDS epidemic, where the president of the United States wouldn't even talk about it, and communities are dying, and she, beautiful Tammy Faye, brought on Steve Peters onto her show, who is an openly gay minister with AIDS, and she asked him what his experience was like, and she also said, we as Christians are supposed to be the salt of the earth, should wrap our arms around you and tell you that we care. And then she also asked, what was it like coming out to your parents? And he said his parents loved me, said that they love me no matter what. And she says, good, because we as moms and dads need to love through anything. And that's the way with Jesus. And it was so radical in that time to have this woman when conservative evangelicals are, it's all white men controlling it. And here she is. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this because I see people suffering and I want them to know that I love them and I care about them. And I believe that she and Steve Peters saved lives with that interview. So for me, it was very important.
Mhm. And Tammy Faye was really influential for a lot of like queer people, like queer celebrities too back in the day, especially like drag superstar RuPaul. Were you aware of that influence that she had preparing for this role and like how much she meant to people going into it?
Absolutely. I mean, RuPaul narrates the documentary,
Mhm.
and in the documentary, it talks about, her life after, I guess, the religious community had shut her out. I mean, she was exiled in some sense. Um, and she really, she said, yeah, I mean, it was like she just felt so connected to that community, and she felt so um, loved and supported. And I think she knew what it felt like to be exiled and thrown out and told that you're undeserving of God's grace. And she didn't believe that that was true for anyone. And so she always reached out to those who felt that they were unworthy or denied acceptance.
Mhm. And it was great to see too, because like I feel like she's one of the people who like lived her life with makeup, hair. Like she was like a queen in her own life, like a
Yes.
drag queen. So I love that.
Love. She had the fearlessness of a drag queen. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of people talk about courage and bravery. I'm sorry, like really taking out, saying like, I'm going to take what I feel inside and I'm going to express myself visually with my body and with my, that to me is like courage to be authentically who you are and expressive. I find it the most inspiring thing to see.
Yes, love that. And I know there's probably like a lot to list, but if there's one thing you admire most about Tammy and like getting to play her, especially in this project, what would it be?
Watching all the videos of her studying, she was always holding people and love, like she went a lot to women's prisons, and I saw all this footage of her all the time. Whenever someone would say, ma'am, will you please pray for me, she holds them in her arms and she prays, and like she was just always, if someone needed her, she showed up. She didn't want anyone to feel left behind or abandoned, and that to me was such a selfless, generous thing to do when you know that someone is suffering and they need your strength and your love, and she knew that she was willing to kind of give it all for them.
Mhm. Well, I love that, and I love the way you portrayed her. So you did it justice. So
Thank
congrats
you,
again.
honey. Thank you so much.
Hi Andrew. Hi King. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time out to talk to me. My best friend Ellen and I have been big fans of yours for years, so it's really cool to get to talk to you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just to get things started, I know Jim Baker is was like especially a complex, complicated person in his life. He's still around. um, he's been like accused of being in the closet, but at the same time, he like preaches like anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Can you talk about getting to play those nuances to Jim and getting to portray like a complex, complicated figure on screen?
Sure, yeah. Well, firstly, as far as I'm aware, that, like especially during the time when we were you know, the time we were depicting, you know, Jim was, you know, Tammy was very, very obviously embracing and supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. And Jim actually was also kind of followed her lead in that, and kind of was very clear about it. He would say publicly, there's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing bad about gay people aren't bad. They're not made wrong. So actually, like he was pretty progressive in certain ways. Like obviously not as progressive as you or I, but there was a sweetness to that I found. And yeah, and there was, of course, you know, none of us knows exactly what his sexual orientation is or has been, or how it's shifted or changed, and we can guess at it, and we can make assumptions, and we can kind of like play with that in the film, but it's hard to be very definitive. Obviously I made my own choices privately, and that's that, but but yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think for anyone raised in a puritanical kind of Christian environment, and having, you know, sexual attraction to the same sex, that's gonna create inevitably a lot of confusion, because if you've been raised with an indoctrination that somehow that means you're made wrong, which of course, as anyone with any wisdom or knowledge knows, is a fallacy and is a lie. But still, there's a lot of untangling that has to happen. So yeah, maybe Jim is experiencing some of that. I'm not sure, but it definitely is a ripe place to kind of explore, and an interesting theme to kind of dive into.
On the flip side of that, Tammy is like a big gay icon. And for younger generations like me, I went to the film not knowing much about Tammy. Did you know were you aware of that, like going to the project, or like did you learn anything new about her, like in her life, especially as like this big person to the queer community?
Yeah, I that was one of the first things I learned, that she meant so much, and still does mean so much to the queer community, and it makes sense. Like, she was someone that went towards the love. She was someone that was always just going towards the love, and as we know, that community is pure love, and when they choose you, you are jumped in, you are included in the deepest way. And she had all of the kind of she's perfect in terms of being an icon for, you know, for all of us, but especially the LGBTQ plus community, for all the reasons that we're aware of. Like, she's just purely fabulous, and again, just like, it's this open, beautiful heart. So yeah, no, it was a cool thing to learn more about that, for sure, with Tammy.
Mm-hmm. She's not the only one. The gays love you too, Andrew. Just saying. So
the feeling is mutual.
Well, that's all that time I have left. But thank you again so much, Andrew. Congrats on the film.
Thank you. Thank you.